Can Dispatch's Phenomaman defeat the Man of Steel? Superman is known for his fights with the strongest beings, from the terrifying Doomsday to the new god Darkseid. But there are some instances in Dispatch showing the true strength of Phenomaman. Well, the fight is not close, and I'll tell you why. But first, who are these characters? Superman. Kal-El, the son of Jor-El and Lara Lor-Van, was born on the alien planet of Krypton. When the Kryptonians' home was on the brink of destruction, the House of El sent the last son of Krypton on a journey across the stars to the planet Earth. A lighter gravity and the youthful yellow sun basking his Kryptonian cells would give Kal-El his powers. His newfound parents Jonathan and Martha Kent would give him his morals and conviction. His life on Earth would evolve Kal-El, now Clark Kent, into Superman, a man with the highest of morals and convictions, valuing human life and doing everything he can to embody his role as a hero. Now let's talk about his opponent, Phenomaman. Lots of superhero mediums try to reinvent the wheel or pay homage to it, whether that's Invincible's Omni-Man or Megamind's Metro Man, but for Dispatch that would be Phenomaman. Katon or as his Nordstrom rock colleagues call him, Dumpy, was from the planet Ergot 52 DC. At some point, under not the clearest of circumstances, he came to Earth and became the hero Phenomaman. Katon would go on to join the superhero team Dispatch and would go on through the events of his story, where we get to see him at his highest and we get to see him at his lowest post his breakup. That will be important later. Let's move on to the fun stuff. First and foremost, what can either hero actually do? Clark Kent is a being with super strength, super speed, super durability, the ability to fly, frost breath, heat vision, a solar flare ability, and I mean even X-ray vision. Superman has a built-in wheel of powers at this point. For all intents and purposes, we will focus on post-rebirth, modern era, standard Superman. If I said let's go with the Golden Age, he'd probably just let one of those mini clones he could make do all the fighting. It's important to note though that the modern age Superman is simply a mountain to contend with. Superman of the modern era has gone through some of the most harrowing fights in DC canon. In the new history of the DC universe, it's established Mr. Kent has done battle with Darkseid, the being who is a new god and ruler of Apocalypse. He has also been forced to contend and try to vanquish Doomsday, a being who gave him his greatest defeat, and yet Superman still got back up. Superman's speed just running clocks him below the Flash family as shown in the story arc Flash War, but for a man without the Speed Force, he was no slouch. It should also be noted it's established his flight time is no joke, arriving at a destination within the blink of an eye. Coupled with his durability, his X-ray vision, frost breath, and all of the rest, he's no slouch. Now, Phenomaman is an alien being with super strength, super speed, super durability, flight, and a claimed ability of solar absorption. He is Dispatch's equivalent to that of Superman, though he does tend to take things a little more literally. The focus is on the one main adaptation of Phenomaman, that being him in the game. With only the game's 6 episodes run to work with, it is a little harder to define exactly what Phenomaman has done and can do, but on a surface level analysis, he can at least prove to be a little bit of a challenge. Phenomaman has power similar to that of Superman's, but how do his powers stack up? Phenomaman is fast, very fast, with a launch speed from the ground that he claims can stun small beings. His biggest visible feats of strength were the moment he lifted a large boulder off a car in an SDN advertisement, as well as the lifting of a bus. There is also the one specific thing he states he can do that would add a little spice to the fight. He told a robber that he wanted to drain all the energy from the sun because of how badly his breakup hurt. Assuming Phenomaman is being truthful that he could do that, that is a big deal against a man who has abilities thanks to the sun basking his cells in solar energy. For the sake of this topic, I'll be running on goodwill here and saying Phenomaman has the power to drain solar energy from the sun. Now then, I have one last thing to mention before we talk about the heroes throwing down. While Superman in this instance is the firmly established main Earth counterpart, Phenomaman's gonna have a couple different versions. Sorta. It'll make sense. I'm gonna try my best to cover all possible versions of this fight. What do I mean? Phenomaman comes from a game with different paths. To make it quick, when Phenomaman is down on his luck and sad over his breakup, he can be recruited to a superhero team and progressively gets his groove back. Or he doesn't have to be recruited, leaving him to essentially continue on wrestling with his emotions and not making peace with how everything turned out. The two different paths leaves us working with both a motivated Phenomaman and an unmotivated one. Now that it's all established, let's finally see why this isn't a close fight. In a path where Phenomaman didn't join Z-Team, we would be left with a disjointed and unmotivated Katon. As seen in some of the scenes post his breakup, he tends to spend a lot of his time longing for his ex-girlfriend Blonde Blazer. If the Phenomaman presented never got a second chance and remained the way he has been, how could he possibly beat Superman? The simple answer is he couldn't. He'd be outclassed in an instant. While it is established that Phenomaman is quite fast, Superman's feats of speed with his attempts to contend with the Flash on foot show that he is just overall faster. Superman's mastered flying and can pass someone in the blink of an eye. Phenomaman's flight speeds are not well established, but he is at least faster than Blonde Blazer, and has a baseline of at least supersonic speeds. The mainline Superman has been pushed to the point of speeds much faster than supersonic. The feats of strength show that while Phenomaman can at least lift a large boulder or a large bus, Superman can move planets and moves when he really wants to. If Phenomaman's head isn't in the game for a fight with a man of tomorrow, there's no chance Superman would even break a sweat, let alone lose. In a path where Phenomaman has his head in the game, maybe things would go a little more exciting. Phenomaman's abilities to allow him to fly off for the moon and possibly breathe in space. He can at least drink on the moon, so it isn't totally clear. Though in a clear mind, he could at least injure a little more and possibly even see Superman coming. Their strength comes to blows, and for a moment, they would be at odds as Superman never exactly wants to hurt his enemies, so it could prove to be a little close for a while. A Phenomaman with a clear mind has only one real option though, his most undefined power of solar absorption. A throwaway line? Maybe, but Phenomaman stating that he could go fly into the sun and absorb all its energy is what gives him a bridge to match Superman, because Superman is filled with solar energy. It's the source of his powers after all. For Superman though, he just has to bask in the solar rays of Earth's sun. Phenomaman said that he could go into the sun to absorb it. Does he need to be closer to the source, similar to DC Comics character Parasite? That's never truly established. Can Phenomaman get solar energy from any source other than the sun? That isn't established either. With all that being said, Phenomaman in a fight with Superman where he is all there could fly out and make an attempt to black out the sun to try and cut off Superman from the source of his powers. With Superman's flight speeds being superior though, the odds of that strategy working just aren't good. Superman could catch Phenomaman before he had the chance to make it to the sun and pretty much sideline him. Without a plausible win in strength and not being able to outspeed Superman to the sun, what's left for the Superhero Dispatch Network hero? Assuming that Phenomaman can take solar energy from any source, there is always the chance he could try to take energy infused in Superman's cells. With Superman spending his entire life from infancy to now on Earth, he has had years of solar energy absorbed into him. If Phenomaman were to catch the Man of Steel off guard and try to absorb his solar energy, Superman would still have the strength to try and fight him off. Case in point, the times Parasite tried to enact that action only to be fought off. There is also the question of how much energy can Phenomaman take in, which is only answered in a statement, not in actual proof. Could he absorb an infinite amount, such as his claimed idea to absorb the sun's solar energy? Could he only go so far before it backfires on him? There is no answer to that in actual proof, but he is confident that he can absorb all of the sun's solar energy, so if he somehow wrestled down Superman, he'd make the play to drain his powers, which has failed when many others have tried the same. Though a fight isn't always a clean one. There are other ways the fight could be altered, such as the possibility of Phenomaman using kryptonite to try and beat Superman. Now that isn't exactly out of the question, as many others have tried to do the same. The issue with that boils down to the odds that Phenomaman would even consider that as something he could do. It is shown many times in Dispatch that Phenomaman isn't always thinking on his feet, whether that be him inviting Robert on his date with Blazer, or laying down atop a car hood when he was feeling down. Phenomaman just sort of does things instead of thinking them through. If he were to throw down with Superman, there's not a very good chance he would think to bring Superman's weakness with him, let alone find out what it is in the first place. It's more likely he would just have the brawl with Superman for the love of the game, so to speak. This sort of tactic would only work in the case of Phenomaman bringing along the Z-Team, which would make it more likely for them to fight dirty. Invisigal sneaking up with kryptonite and that sort of thing. When it's done and dusted, Phenomaman may have the powers and the possibilities, but Superman has been in the game much longer than almost anyone. There isn't really an angle one could take unless it was far out of the realm of possibility. That would end in Phenomaman toppling the big blue Boy Scout, and there isn't really a possibility for Phenomaman to do much damage at all. Superman wins, and it isn't close at all. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, click the video on the screen.